They called him the bus, unstoppable, unforgettable. But what happens when the bus runs out of road? Julian Savea wasn't just a rugby star. He was the star. The next Lomu. The wing who was meant to rewrite the record books, leave defenders in his dust, and etch his name into all-black immortality. And for a while, that's exactly what he did. Try after try, tackle after tackle. He wasn't playing the game, he was redefining it. But just when he was on the verge of becoming the greatest all-black try scorer of all time, something shifted. 4 tries away. Just 4. That's all it would have taken to surpass Doug Howlett and stand alone at the top. But those 4 tries never came. Not because he stopped wanting it. Not because he lost his skills. But because the ceiling above him wasn't made of glass, it was made of pressure, expectation, and pain. Julian Savea was the player that couldn't break through the ceiling, and the world watched in silence. He came from humble beginnings, raised in Wellington, born into a family that loved rugby, but nothing came easy. Julian wasn't one of those child prodigies who made headlines at 10. No. He was raw, hungry, relentless, and he built himself into a beast. At Rongotai College, he started to turn heads. His frame was monstrous, his speed unnatural. By the time he entered the New Zealand under-20 squad, he wasn't just a player to watch, he was the future. At the 2010 Junior World Championship, he bagged 8 tries. 8. He was named IRB Junior Player of the Year. That's the kind of dominance scouts dream of. He was compared to Jonah Lomu before he even signed a Super Rugby contract. But instead of crumbling, Julian embraced the pressure, at least on the surface. The Hurricanes picked him up, and within a year, he was an all-black. His debut. A hat-trick. 3 tries. Wearing black for the first time, and already tearing teams apart. New Zealand thought they had found their next superhero. But this wasn't Marvel. This was real life. And real life has no script. Savea played 54 tests and scored 46 tries. That's one of the most lethal strike rates in rugby history. He was terrifying in space, brutal in contact, and somehow graceful with the ball. In the 2015 World Cup, he scored 8 tries, equaling the likes of Jonah Lomu and Brian Habana. He was flying. But behind the tries, the pain was quietly building. Media began to shift. At first, they praised him endlessly. Then, slowly, they turned. Every missed tackle, every dropped ball, every quiet game became headline news. Keyboard warriors tore him apart. Overrated. Lazy. Unfit. They didn't care that he was human. They only cared that he wasn't scoring. And Julian. He felt it. Every word. Every tweet. Every comment. They stung. They chipped away at his self-belief. The mental block began forming, not from failure, but from fear. Fear of messing up. Fear of never being enough. Fear of letting down an entire nation that expected perfection. Fans don't often realize how deep those cuts go. But Julian's family did. His wife, Fatima, later revealed that the criticism didn't just affect Julian, it tore at their entire home. Imagine coming back from training to see your partner broken. Not physically. Mentally. The kind of wounds ice can't heal. She once said, "People think rugby players are machines." But when he hurt, we all hurt. Our family suffered in silence. The pressure didn't stay on the field. It followed him home, into moments where he was supposed to feel safe. But there's no safety when your worth feels tied to public approval. Julian tried to silence the noise. He worked harder. Fought harder. But mental scars don't fade with gym sessions. And the more he tried to prove himself, the heavier the jersey became. What once felt like armor now felt like chains. Then, he was dropped. From the All Blacks. No farewell tour. No last hurrah. Just gone. He was only 27. In any other country, 27 is your prime. But in New Zealand, where the pressure to be perfect is suffocating, it was over. Just like that. The bus had been parked. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because the mental ceiling was too thick to break. Julian moved to France. A new country. A fresh start. But the ghost of what could have been followed him. And for years, fans whispered the same question. What happened? Why didn't he become the greatest? Here's the truth. Talent doesn't guarantee greatness. Support does. Mental health matters just as much as muscle mass. And Julian Savea's story is a painful reminder of what happens when we forget that. But Julian didn't vanish. He came back. He returned to New Zealand. To the Hurricanes. Not as the same player, but as a different man. A father. A husband. A survivor. He spoke out about the pressure, the anxiety, the depression. He stood up for players going through what he once faced in silence. He used his story not as a tragedy, but as a warning. Today, he mentors. He speaks. He shares. And he shows players that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. He fights for systems that protect players mentally, not just physically. Because he knows what it feels like to stand at the edge of greatness and fall short, not from a lack of ability, but from a lack of understanding. He now plays with joy, not fear. For love, not headlines. And while he may not hold a try-scoring record, he holds something far more powerful, the courage to tell the truth. And yet, his story is not unique. There are other Julians. Talents that were never given the support to shine. Players who cracked under pressure and were discarded like broken tools. We remember the ones who made it. But what about the ones who didn't? This video isn't just about Savea, it's about the system. The one that praises when you rise and vanishes when you fall. The one that treats players like assets, not people. And unless we change it, we'll keep losing our brightest stars to the shadows. Let that sink in. How many legends did we never meet? How many players had the spark, the drive, the heart, but no one to catch them when they slipped? Julian Savea may not be the All Blacks' top try scorer, but he's become something far greater. A mirror, a reminder, a voice. And maybe, just maybe, that matters more. Because his story stretches beyond the stadium lights. It forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth in professional sports. We build our heroes up, but we rarely prepare them for the fall. We love them when they score, chant their names when they win, but where are we when they're broken? When the media turns, when the contracts dry up, when the jersey is taken away? Julian's legacy isn't just in the number of tries. It's in the courage to come back when no one believed he would. It's in the honesty to admit that mental health matters. It's in the grace to forgive a nation that demanded too much and gave too little. Let me know in the comments of players you know that has gone through what Julian Savea has gone through. He may never lift another trophy. He may never wear the black jersey again. But what he's done, by standing tall in his truth, is more powerful than any title. He's given the next generation permission to feel, to speak, to heal. Because in the end, the most important tries aren't scored on the field, they're the ones we fight for in life. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the human behind the jersey, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's honor the players who gave us everything, and make sure we never leave them behind.